Why, hello there, and welcome to a brand new special edition of the Iron Phantom's Black Book. I am your host, the Iron Phantom, and it is Halloween. So I thought, what better to tell you than a terrifying tale on Halloween? So let us begin our story, shall we? This is the rules of Halloween.
On the 31st of October is Halloween, and whether you know it or not, there are certain rules you must abide by to avoid the trick. But if you follow the rules of Halloween, you will have a treat. And you may not know it, but if you do the traditions, the treat is your life. And these rules are always monitored by spirits of Halloween, entities and demons. You see, Halloween, children dress in costumes, go on doors asking for candy and sweets. And of course, if you abide by this, if you don't participate in any of the dressing up, be sure to give treats or you will get tricks. And of course, some people like to go out and party, basically dressing up as well for Halloween in costumes, which is like the modern trope of the classic traditions where people would dress as animals too, and danced around fires to ward off evil spirits. In many ways, that is the modern way of doing it. Also, be sure to keep decorations up until the very end of Halloween. Of course, other rules that you can break is by tricking a young traditional trick-or-treater and stealing their candy. That is a grave mistake, which is what you're about to find out now in this story that I will tell. So, Timmy, a young 9-year-old boy, dressing up for Halloween in his little skeleton costume, going from door to door, going trick-or-treat, asking for candy, tagging along with other groups of children that are also in on the Halloween traditions. However, Timmy, after answering the door with some children, he would then go off on his own, making his way home, as it was getting late, and the young adults were preparing for their Halloween traditions. However, Timmy was being watched by some other kids, some older kids, Billy and his two friends, Jonah and Nathan. Not in traditional Halloween costumes, that is already one mistake, but also causing mischief by throwing eggs at people's houses and throwing toilet paper around. They had not yet got any candy, and they felt like sneaking up on some vulnerable person and taking their candy, which is what they did. Billy and his two friends, Jonah and Nathan, ganged up on Timmy, telling him what is his costume and to give him his candy. Timmy refusing, but then Billy and his friends beat him up and took the candy, and then pedaled away in their bikes. Little Timmy all beaten and bruised and sad and scared, very upset. But then that is when he was approached by two people in Halloween costumes. A little person dressed as a devil, Mr. Treat, and a tall man in a clown costume dressed, named Mr. Trick. Both approached Billy, and Mr. Treat offered his hand to Timmy, helping him up. He then says thank you and who they are, both standing there silent and not saying anything. Timmy then telling them that these jerks took his candy, and Mr. Trick in his clown costume, wearing a clown mask, just tapped his clown nose as a sign of not letting him worry. They both then comforted Timmy and told him to wait at this little bench which is nearby to sit on. He did so, and they both went off to deal with the boys. Billy and his friends both helping themselves to the candy, eating it and messing around. Basically, these three had broken a few rules of Halloween. Now, if you break 3 rules, that is when you will receive no treat, only a trick. They already broke 2 by not dressing up in Halloween costumes. And also, another rule, by targeting a vulnerable trick-or-treater and stealing his candy. That is when Mr. Trick and Mr. Treat approached them. Then the 3 boys said, "Hey, what are you doing? Isn't your friend a little old to be trick-or-treating? He's an adult dressed as a clown. What are you supposed to be anyway, a little demon?" He then held up a pillow case that was empty. "Oh, you got candy," said Billy, but then noticed there was no candy. He then says, "You haven't got any candy. You're not having any of ours." Then Mr. Trick raised his hand and shaked his fingers as in expecting the boys to place the candy they had taken into Mr. Treat's sack, then telling them to get lost, spitting at them both and throwing candy wrappers, disrespecting these 2 entities of Halloween that always make sure the rules stand and apply. Then, that is when they had their final warning, and that is when Mr. Treat removed his devil mask, revealing to not be a child but a dwarf. And then the 3 boys saying, "Shit, you're not even a kid, you're a little man." Both looking angry. Even though Mr. Trick had his clown mask on, he was angry beneath the mask. Then, that is when Mr. Trick got out a knife. And Mr. Treat also got out a small sharp weapon, a small knife. They then said, "What the fuck are you going to do?" The 3 boys then ran, splitting up so that only 2 of them could get to. Jonah, thinking he lost them, takes a deep breath. But then Mr. Trick appears behind him, jumping on his back and jabbing him in the neck with a small knife, slitting his throat and killing him where there is a bloodbath. That is when Mr. Treat gathers what candy he has and puts it in his pillow sack. As for the other two, Nathan pedals his bike, and then his bike stumbles on a rock where he falls over and hurts himself, injuring his leg. In pain and agony, that is when Mr. Trick appears. He then says to Mr. Trick, apologizing, but he is too late. And Mr. Trick takes what candy he has and puts it in his bag. And then he grabs Nathan by the face and twists his head off, ripping it off, killing him. As for the ringleader Billy, he runs and runs until he thinks he has lost them, and is then relieved. And for a minute wonders where his two friends are. He then walks under a tree where there is Halloween decorations such as toilet paper and jack-o'-lanterns. He then turns around and notices one jack-o'-lantern is his friend Jonah's severed head, and then he turns around and sees another jack-o'-lantern which is his other friend Nathan's head. That is when he turns around and Mr. Trick and Mr. Treat are behind him. Then, seeing he has all of Timmy's candy, he then gives them the bag, begging for mercy, but he is too late. And that is when the sinister duo then kill him as blood splatters around the tree. Timmy, in his little skeleton costume, sits at the bench, and then he sees Mr. Trick and Mr. Treat with the bag of his candy. And not only that, but is more bigger with more candy. They then give him the bag and he says, "Thank you very much. You really are great friends." "Will I see you both again?" said Timmy. Mr. Trick and Mr. Treat looked at one another with their masks on and both nodded their heads. Then Timmy made his way home, where he opened the door and was greeted by his parents, who were all in Halloween costumes and had been giving out treats to children. Then his mother saying, "There you are, Timmy. Did you have fun tonight?" Timmy shaking his head, saying, "I didn't at first, but then I made two friends." His father, happy, saying, "You made friends? That's great, son. Who are they?" "Oh, one was dressed as a devil, the other was dressed as a clown. But they were nice. Some kids stole my candy and they got it back for me. They said I'll see them again next Halloween." "Well, that sounds great. Maybe next year you'll have someone to go trick-or-treating with." "Yeah, maybe. Halloween is my favorite holiday. And I love doing all this trick-or-treating and fun stuff." His parents then tell him, "Well, those are the rules of Halloween. You have to take part in some way. Whether you don't dress up, you have to give treats, or you'll get tricked. Anyway, come on, let's get you ready for bed, and we can go through the candy in the morning. We don't want you having a sugar rush before bed now." "Okay, Mom," said Timmy, as he went upstairs to wash off his skeleton makeup. As for Mr. Trick and Mr. Treat, they then walked off together down the street, seeing people with their decorations and their jack-o'-lanterns up. But then, as they are walking, they see two drunk friends, not in Halloween costumes, and harassing some young teenage girls in Halloween costumes, thinking that these two punks are not following the rules of Halloween. So, basically, you must follow the rules of Halloween. And they are: wear a costume, give out treats, celebrate the holiday, and keep your decorations and jack-o'-lanterns lit. Because if you do follow the rules, you'll be treated with your life. Break more than 3 of the rules, then you will be greatly tricked. Maybe tricked with the curse of fatal death. Those are the rules of Halloween.
Did you enjoy that tale? Did it terrify you? Did it make you respect the rules and abide by them on Halloween? Well, I hope so. That is all we have time for this Halloween special of the show. I hope you enjoyed our story. Let us know what you thought down below in the comments, and if you liked this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and to share with your friends. And feel free to subscribe to the official Random Horror YouTube channel if you haven't already. I will be back at Christmas with a Christmas special. So, until then, don't have nightmares. And Happy Halloween.